What started as a remark on a podcast became a flashpoint for discussion about race, comedy, and responsibility. When humor crosses the line, who decides what's funny and what's harmful? Stick around to find out. Today we're diving into one of the biggest controversies in comedy this year. How one joke by Andrew Schulz turned into a big controversy involving Kendrick Lamar. From edgy humor to cultural accountability, we'll break down the drama, the backlash, and what this says about the future of comedy. Comedy has traditionally been a mirror reflecting society's shortcomings, strengths, and peculiarities. Comedians walk a fine line between humor and offense, often pushing boundaries to provoke thought or laughter. Yet as the landscape of cultural sensitivity evolves, the risks associated with this delicate balance becomes increasingly evident. This conflict was summed up in a recent dispute between rapper Kendrick Lamar and comedian Andrew Schulz, which began with a poorly thought-out joke and descended into a larger cultural conversation. Renowned for his edgy humor, Schulz had to face public criticism that revealed the limits of his humorous philosophy and underlined the growing need for responsibility in comedy. The debate started on a podcast episode where Schulz joined with James and Fod, hosts of the rather non-controversial Shits and Gigs, referring to the popular Tick Hub trend showing white guys whose personal development, through better fashion, grooming, and self-care, was ascribed to dating black women. The black girlfriend effect concept was discussed. Schulz strayed into provocative terrain, even as the movement celebrated black women's positive impact. Leaning into stale cliches, he joked about black women being angry and physically aggressive, therefore diminishing the importance in relationships to a caricature based on prejudice. This signaled a turning moment. Although Schulz's audience was used to his caustic humor, his remarks touched a nerve, especially among James and Fod supporters. Known for avoiding controversy, these anchors were themselves caught in a backlash accused of not confronting Schulz's ugly comments. Their laughing during the conversation further alienated their audience, especially black women who felt insulted and damaged. The reaction gathered steam when Kendrick Lamar, among the most powerful voices in modern hip-hop, spoke obliquely. Lamar inserted a lyric in the song Whacked Out Murals on his surprise album GNX, Don't Allow No Black Woman Talk About No White Comedian, That's Law. Though Lamar did not specifically identify Schulz, the verse was generally understood as a criticism of his comments. Lamar's participation transformed the debate from a specialist podcast topic into a more general cultural conversation, therefore intensifying its controversy. Given his reputation for sophisticated investigations of race, identity, and social justice, Lamar's critique had great weight. Although the focus on social disdain and prejudices, his poem highlighted black women's historical and continuous fight and underlined the need to make people answerable for spreading negative narratives. Dealing with this underlying criticism, Schulz answered in a typical manner, doubling back. On his Flagrant podcast, he charged Lamar with hypocrisy, pointing out misogyny in rap songs and Lamar's relationships with musicians convicted of misbehavior. Schulz made a caustic remark, implying that rappers were now in a position to counsel comedians about honoring women, which connected with some of his supporters but turned off others. Schulz's answers grew rapidly. He strayed into hyperbole and made a provocative joke about making love to Lamar, a remark seen by many as frightening and beyond the boundaries of comedy into inappropriate provocation. This comment drew strong criticism from people like Meek Mill and O'Shea Jackson Jr., the son of Ice Cube, openly criticizing Schulz for his lack of compassion. With his tweet, Mill captured the reaction, "Black manhood is not a joke." The controversy revived long-standing arguments on the function of humor in society, emphasizing that humor sometimes feeds on discomfort. Schulz's supporters contended that comedians should be able to joke about any topic. They cited the legacy of comedians like George Carlin and Richard Pryor, who questioned social mores by the means of provocative content. Schulz himself adopted this stance, claiming that his comedy was equal opportunity, hence aiming for anyone without prejudice. Critics attacked this defense, though. They maintain that comedy has to be responsible, even if it should be audacious. Jokes based on negative stereotypes, especially those aimed at underprivileged groups, run the danger of feeding rather than challenging society's preconceptions. Schulz's joke on black women not only made people laugh, but also reinforced a stereotype long weaponized against black women to minimize their voices and experiences. James and Fuad found their own reckoning caught in the crossfire. Their audience, many of whom were let down by their complicity, criticized their reluctance to challenge Schulz during the podcast. The hosts publicly apologized, realizing they hadn't been ready to handle such an incident instantly. They committed to grow from their mistakes and admitted their obligation to guard their audience. The apologies got conflicting responses. While some supporters felt their regret lacked complete addressing of the damage done, others valued its genuineness. The incident served as a sobering reminder of black women's experiences being discounted or minimized by society, especially in environments where they ought to feel appreciated and respected. Given Lamar's position in the black community, his ballad connected powerfully. As an artist, he has regularly used his position to challenge institutionalized injustice and raise underprivileged voices. His criticism of Schulz was not a single act, but rather a part of a larger legacy of supporting black women, a group sometimes left to fend for themselves in public debate. Lamar's participation also emphasized the cultural weight of hip-hop as a social critique vehicle. Critics claimed Lamar was hypocritical because of the history of misogynistic songs in the genre, while supporters said his self-awareness, owning his shortcomings and working for improvement set him unique. Though he was not flawless, his song in GNX was a call to action, asking society to do more for black women. Schulz's denial of any misconduct at the core of the debate set off the arguments. Rather than meditation, he answered with deflection, doubling down on his jokes and presenting himself as a victim of cancel culture. This reply exposed a brittle ego that was unable to process criticism productively. Schulz's treatment of the matter stood quite different from Lamar's. While Lamar accepted his flaws and used them as a basis for conversation, Schulz discounted comments as an attack on humor itself. This defensiveness not only turned off critics, but also damaged his reputation as a comic able to negotiate challenging cultural issues. The debate highlighted a change in the public views of comedians. Though comedy is still a great weapon for confronting difficult realities, viewers want responsibility from those who use it carelessly more and more. A growing understanding of the power relations inherent in humor challenges the notion that everything is fair game. Jokes aimed against underprivileged groups, especially ones created by people outside those groups, are rigorously examined for their possible damage. This change captures more general cultural developments, like the emergence of social media, which gives underprivileged voices more prominence and holds prominent personalities responsible in real time. For comedians like Schulz, this new terrain calls for a change in strategy. Though the core of comedy is still to make people laugh and challenge ideas, the ways in which it reaches these objectives has to change. For both public personalities and comedians, the aftermath of Schulz's jokes functions as a warning story. It emphasizes the requirements of cultural awareness, as well as the need of listening to and learning from underprivileged people. For Schulz, the debate might have presented a chance for development, a chance to participate in important conversation and hone his comic technique. Or rather, his defensive posture and incendiary comments widened the gulf separating himself from his detractors. The debate around Andrew Schulz and Kendrick Lamar ultimately centered on more than one poor joke. Reflecting the continuous efforts to strike a balance between free expression and responsibility, it was a microcosm of more general societal issues. Although Schulz's ego could have suffered, the event provided an insightful analysis of the changing function of humor in a globally varied and linked society. Ultimately, the lesson is really clear. Comedy bears responsibility just like any other artistic medium does. Those who use it have to do it carefully, since their words could either heal or hurt. Comedians, viewers, and cultural analysts all aim to rise to the challenge and use humor to reunify rather than split as society keeps struggling with this complexity. This controversy is more than just about Andrew Schulz or Kendrick Lamar. It's a lens into how humor intersects with culture and identity. What's your take? Should comedy have limits, or is everything fair game? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more thought-provoking content.